We're going to draw a 2D character for rigged animation in Blender. Creating a rigged character in Blender is ridiculously easy. I've started off with a fox's head. And now, obviously, we're going to add a body. So I have a reference image to use for the fox body. And I'll import the image and draw over top of the reference image using something called grease pencil layers. Blender's way of 2D drawing is using pencil layers. We're able to do this in a 2D workspace within a 3D application with Blender's 2D animation workspace. I've chosen File, New, 2D Animation to get into the 2D animation workspace. And while in object mode, I've chosen Add Image Reference. This will bring in a reference image that we've already created into the background so we can draw over top of it. The reference image will also appear in your Layers panel on the right-hand side. We can control its visibility using the little eyeball beside it. And first we'll need to begin adding a new grease pencil layer. We'll go to Object Mode and choose Add Grease Pencil Layer and choose Stroke. This will automatically give us a stroke with a number of parameters already attached to it, including colors and even a fill and a bunch of materials. These are all available through a variety of different tool panels within Blender. Now I'll go into Edit Mode and delete this stroke. I know I just created it, but I don't need the actual stroke. I just needed the attributes. So we'll hit X on the keyboard. We'll make sure that the stroke is selected while we're in that layer in edit mode. Click on the stroke or hit A on the keyboard while in edit mode to select all of the artwork, and choose X on the keyboard to delete the stroke. The stroke will be gone, but we still have the layer. Now we can create all of our drawings or two-dimensional drawings within this grease pencil layer. I can rename the layer in my layers palette. And now we're ready to draw. With the grease pencil layer selected, I'm going to choose the drop down from Object Mode and choose Draw. This will give us a variety of pen options to use. You can select the various brushes and pens to use from the top menu. And beside that, we can also choose colors and materials. Now all of these are also available in a side panel called our Active Tool panel. That's available when we choose View, Sidebar. We make sure that the sidebar is selected to view that panel, and it's also available by clicking on this tiny little tab to the right-hand side of your scene. We now have several options available for all of our brushes and pens. We have radius, stabilizer tool as well, so it keeps our hands steady. I've used a radius of 20 pixels. You can experiment with this. I've selected stabilized stroke and created my settings there as well. We're going to select a draw pencil on the left-hand side toolbar. And we can now go into the Object Data Properties to the far right Layers panel. This gives us layers that are available inside our grease pencil layer. These layers will control the different shapes, the artwork that we have within our grease pencil layer. There is a layer called Line and there's a layer called Colors. These were automatically set up when we created our new grease pencil layer. Now I'm drawing the line using my trackpad, so I need that stabilized stroke on for sure. And if I don't like the line that I created, I can just undo the stroke. Just Command Z on your keyboard. It works pretty well. You see a little trailing line as you draw. It kind of gives you a little bit of a lag, so you can see a preview of your line before you actually draw the line. You can experiment with the settings and stabilize stroke to get the perfect fit for your drawing tool. So I have an iPad, and I've connected it to my Blender desktop using something called Duet. If you have a newer Macintosh, you can connect with something called Sidecar. You Windows people are on your own. Now I'm drawing with my stylus. You can see that it's much smoother. It gives me a more natural line as I draw. And because I'm using the pressure sensitive feature when I draw with stylus. And with the strokes drawn, I can make that original reference image invisible to the top right-hand layer. I'll just punch that little eyeball, and then I can see the strokes that I've drawn over top of that image. Now, if I want to bump up the thickness of these lines that I've just created, I can go to something called Sculpt Mode. This is over on the left-hand side where our Draw tool is located. Just with the drop-down, you can just click that and select a variety of options. I've chosen thickness, and just by going over the top of the line with this new tool, you can see that it changes the pressure sensitivity. When we go over to the side panel in the Active Tool panel, we can now adjust the parameters for our stroke. We can select to add more thickness or reduce the thickness. This really helps us, especially if we've done it with a mouse or a trackpad, and we can just thin out the lines into a taper to make it look like, you know, we've drawn this with an actual stylus or pen. You just do light brushing strokes over top of the line, and you'll see how effective it is. You can use just the edge of the tool, the view tool that you have that's showing you your brush size, and just feather over top to get what you want. If you dig right into the middle of it and adjust your brush settings, you'll see the effect that it has when you roll over top of your lines. Experiment with this again and figure out which works best for you. And once we've created our stroke modifications with the Sculpt tool, we'll go back to our Draw mode. And we'll choose the Colors layer from within our Grease Pencil layer. Now I'm renaming our reference layer right now. I'm going to bring that back. I've turned the visibility back on. I've selected my Grease Pencil layer, and I'm going back into the Object Data Properties tab where the layers are for my grease pencil. Now I've chosen the Colors layer, and I can start drawing fills and creating the fills as a backdrop for my line work. Now if we click on our Material Properties tab, we'll see a variety of strokes and a fill object to work with. This was something that was created automatically for us when we created our grease pencil layer with a stroke. So we can create a new material slot, clicking the plus side on the right side of that Layers tab, and then we'll click New Material. We can rename the material in the palette layer. And you'll see now that we have options to select a stroke and a fill. Given that this is going to be a fill, we'll just select the fill option. And when we click on the base color, you'll be able to change the color for that particular stroke or fill. Make sure that on our colors layer, you'll see within the Object Data Properties tab, and I can begin drawing the shape. And as I'm drawing, it's going to be creating a fill. Now, don't be afraid to do this as many times as you need. Recreate your stroke. You can delete it if you don't want it. Now I'm renaming that layer. I'm going to create a new layer. And this new layer is going to be the fur for my character. I'll go back to my Materials tab. It's my Material Properties tab, to be precise. We're going to create a new material. So I'll add a new material slot. I'll choose New, rename it appropriately. And to choose the fill color, I'll click on the base color. This time I'll select the eyedropper tool. And I can sample the color directly off my reference image. Now, it's a good idea to change the color of the stroke to match the fill, in case we plan to use that stroke within our character artwork. So we'll click on the base color for the stroke. We'll use the eyedropper tool, select the base color from the fill. That makes sure they're exactly the same color. Now we're clicking back on the Object Data Properties tab. We'll make sure that we're on the correct layer for that fill that we're now creating. I can make other layers invisible. I can begin drawing my shape. And because we're creating this character in different parts for rigging, we'll only be drawing one shape at a time. This will be the neck. That's okay if you're a little loose with this drawing. Relax. We can always go back into our sculpt mode to refine the shape. Remember how to do that? We go up to the draw, drop down tool layer, and then we're going to select something called push. We're in sculpt mode now. On the drop down, we select sculpt mode. I'll select the push tool. And we're going to gently manipulate our shape by just pushing the shape around to get it to do what I want. We can adjust the parameters, like the radius of the tool and the strength of the tool. But strength does seem to adjust the opacity, so we'll just stick with radius when we're adjusting our shape here. And you can just kind of feather around the shape to make it do what you want. Be gentle. Now I'll need to move this object below other objects in my character layers palette. So I'll click on the Object Data Properties tab. And I can just select the layer that I want to move and choose the two little arrows to the right hand side to move that up and down within my layer hierarchy. And make sure that that layer is behind the one that we previously created, the little white puff of my fox's fur. Now we need to make sure they're properly arranged in 3D space. So we'll move over to object mode. We'll select the layer that we wish to move in 3 dimensions. That'll be our grease pencil layer. I've correctly named that to be my character's part. And then when we move into 3D view, the 3D space, which is pretty easy, you just you move your mouse or move your trackpad to pop into that mode. And we'll make sure that our object is selected. And if I need to get back into my 2D workspace, I can just hit 0 on the keypad. And by selecting the object and hitting G on the keyboard, we can move that around in 3D space. Now, if we choose Y on the keyboard, it makes sure that our object is constrained within the 3D axis. So we're only moving it in that three-dimensional axis. So G on the keyboard, Y to constrain it in 3D. I can go back into my camera view mode by hitting 0 so I can see the reference and see the progress. Make the other layers invisible so that I can see the progress of that individual character part and where it's situated in the in 3D space. And that's it. You're done. Pretty simple, huh? You just created a body part. Now just continue creating each of the limbs separately in your character. Just be sure to add a new grease pencil layer for every character part that you create. And then we'll get on to rigging in another tutorial. Just imagine the possibilities, huh? 2D animation in a 3D space. Yeah. Special thanks to Little Fox for the chill beat.